All right. Who wants some t-shirts? All right. We have our own branded "I love my life" affirmation, the best affirmation in the world. Go on. Let's throw some out. Whee! What? Here we go. Let's have some. Oops. That way. Anyway, you guys can share it amongst yourselves. All right. Amazing. So, welcome to this talk. Anyone here do SOMA Breath? Yay! Amazing. Fans. Awesome. So, my name is Niraj, and I just want to ask a question. Who here actually likes to get high? Put your hand up. Come on, you're all lying if you don't put your hand up. Everyone likes to get high, right? We've been getting high for time, since time immemorial, right? It's like what humans love to do, right? So the problem with that is that it's not always the most sustainable thing if it's done through substances, drugs, alcohol, which I used to love to partake in to the max. And then I found another way that I found is much more sustainable. And usually also it goes hand in hand with things like depression, right? Anxiety. If you think about it, the worst decisions I've ever made in my life are when I've been the most depressed, the most anxious in my life. So it's a state of being, consciousness. And there's a problem now in the world. Okay? Depression, anxiety was already huge problems in the world. Okay? In fact, in America alone, 1 in 5 people are on antidepressant medication, which is crazy. Actually, 60% of people are on prescriptions for pharmaceutical drugs. I used to be a pharmacist. I quit that job for a reason, right? Because it doesn't work like they say it should. And COVID has just triggered 25% increase in anxiety and depression around the world, which is serious. So there is a collective trauma going on in the world. And thanks to what's happened, the pandemic, wars, conflicts, uncertainty, crazy megalomaniac leaders in charge, right? We all know that. So there's a huge problem. And studies also show that 40 to 50% of people who have things like depression, okay, are much more likely to suffer from addictions and alcoholism and substance abuse, okay? So there's a huge problem now with the use of recreational drugs, like the fentanyl epidemic in America has just gone totally crazy out of hand, right? So we have a problem, but I believe there's a solution. And it's been right underneath your nose this whole time. And I want to introduce you to this solution. Like, I know from first-hand experience, back in the day, right, I used to be a raver, full-on raver. This is me, from depression to freedom, living a breath-based lifestyle. I used to actually be running some of the biggest raves in the UK from 1999 to 2002 until I got really involved in taking a lot of drugs and getting wasted every weekend. And it was a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, had a great time, until I lost everything, ended up going into my job as a pharmacist. That's what I had to fall back on. So there you are, you'll see me at a moment where I was on the left about to put together a project that would have helped millions of people in the world. I was going to be the face of Asda Health, right? Do anyone know Asda, the supermarket chain? So what happened was I worked really hard because now I had to fall back on my profession as a pharmacist. Back in the day, I wanted to be a DJ, and my mum said, "No, better, you'll be DJ," right? So I was like, "No, I'm going to be DJ," and then everything happened. But I ended up becoming a pharmacist, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try and be successful in this world. And I ended up climbing to the ladder of a very big supermarket chain. 6 months into it, they decided to close down this project. I don't know exactly why, but they did. And I got really disillusioned. I couldn't believe it. Corporate, head office. I mean, well, the thing is, I don't really suit that. That's not my identity. I was actually very depressed anyway, and I was also getting wasted on the weekends. Not really the typical face of Asda Health. And then I crashed and burned with an autoimmune disease that left me housebound for almost a year. And that's where everything changed. That's where I realized I've been living completely out of alignment in my life. And that's how I discovered the breath as a tool to create an inner alignment and to shift your core identity into alignment with what you truly want. All right? And that's what I want to talk to you a lot about. Because here is the real me on the right, Niraj, who just spoke at TEDx. And now we've got a movement called SOMA Breath. It's transforming the world. We train instructors. We've got over 3,000 instructors around the world using the same methodology that really helped me transform. Plus, I am still a DJ, but now I run breath raves rather than hedonistic raves and breathwork ceremonies. But my music's still played by some of the top DJs in the world, like Black Coffee and some of the top other DJs like Satori, who are people I really look up to and admire. So I still got my passion, my outlet, and that means Soma Breath's driven by really cool music. And I found a new outlet for my creativity through the music that powers the breathwork tracks. So I've even got Cambridge University who's studying this right now as we speak, my method, which we're going to share and talk about the results. So just a little bit about me, but I don't want to go too much about me, but by getting into a breath-based lifestyle and hacking this state, this optimum state of being you can get into with the breath, I ended up becoming the music producer, the Wim Hof method. I was a right-hand man of Wim Hof. Who's heard of Wim Hof? Probably everyone. Yeah, he's a total living legend. And, I toured the world with him. We did some amazing stuff. I'm the Mind Valley Breathwork guy. University of Cambridge are studying us right now. We've got a long-term study going on. Ritual is one of the biggest cosmetics brands. I developed a whole mind spa technology, and I just spoke at TEDx. So this is what can happen when you get into alignment. If you're struggling with any kind of addiction, depression, or like loss of direction, I really believe the breath is an answer to get you to wake you up to find your true self. It works on both your physical health and your emotional health. All right. So where did this breathwork stuff come from? And actually, it comes from the world's first drug addicts, right? And that's going back in time to the Vedic legend of Soma. And this is a really good analogy, in my opinion, for what's going on in the world today. So I just want to give you a little history lesson. So thousands of years ago, there was a legend of Soma where the rishis lived in a golden age on this planet. They lived forever. They were immortal. They would revel in this substance called Soma. Nobody really knows what the true origin is, but they were addicted to it because it gave them bliss, happiness, ecstasy, divine connection, but also made them live forever, right? It was the ultimate biohack. But the Soma starts to run out, okay? So now God Indra freaks out. He's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So he orders everyone to go inwards to discover how do we create the Soma from within, okay? And that's the origin of Tantric Yoga. And then there's these Soma rituals. They get into these ecstatic states using a sequence of Tantric Yoga techniques that I believe I have somewhat revived for our modern age through Soma Breath. So I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment. And that's what Cambridge University is studying right now. So if you think about it as well, there's so many external somas that exist today. There's TV, there's media, there's iPhone apps, there's computer games, there's porn, right? There's drugs, recreational drugs, pharmaceutical drugs. And a lot of us are getting addicted to external stuff and ignoring the fact that we can create the bliss from within. Or we've been educated out of this ability to create the bliss from within, right? So what is the Soma within? What is this bliss from within, right? That's actually what we can use to become naturally high, happy, and healthy. And it's a cocktail of neurotransmitters, okay, that's released under certain states, high intensity exercise, sex, and other pursuits that you love and really enjoy can wake this up. But there's a breath technique that does it in a very profound way, right? Called Kumbhaka or Nishesha Rachaka in pranayama, which is one of the core techniques that drives our Soma Breath journeys. And it releases a dose, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. These feel-good neurotransmitters make you feel blissed out and high naturally, right? But they also have a lot of health benefits. They strengthen the immune system, your physical health and mental health as well. So we revolve a lot of our techniques around giving you a daily dose, all right, of this feel-good neurotransmitters. Okay, so one chemical in particular, oxytocin, is the chemical of transformation. It's a hormone, neurotransmitter that is the number one for neuroplasticity, changing the brain according to will. In fact, if you want to manifest, who's into manifesting, law of attraction, stuff like that, right? You want to do it after a period of intense orgasms, right? That changes the brain the most according to will. And this is why maybe secret societies, they revolve a lot around sex magic rituals. But we don't have to do these weird occult rituals. With breath work, we can actually create an abundance of oxytocin. I'll talk to you about that in a moment. And what it does is it allows the brain to change according to your own will. This is what I call self-directed neurogenesis, where through the power of intention, we can change the shape of our brain, the neurology, to match the reality we really want. And that's how I teach people to bend reality. And that's what's really helped me. So oxytocin is that molecule that helps us that. So I create a system that combines ancient pranayama techniques with modern music. And so guided imagery meditation is the art of programming the mind through directed neurogenesis. I call it neurosomatic programming, where rhythmic music and structured breath work, where you breathe in a perfect rhythm to music, really helps you create these feel-good neurotransmitters. But then there's a point where we hold our breath for long periods of time. When you can hold your breath beyond 90 seconds, that is actually when we release this soma within. That's when you get this big burst, this positive stress response that releases a high dose of the dose I'm talking about. All right, so we just made a breathwork study with Cambridge University. It's the largest breathwork study to date, right, where it revolves around a protocol I developed using these techniques of rhythmic breathing, right, with music and breath retentions, okay, and using energy locks, tantric energy locks. We actually have a booth around the side on the left where you can try this out, okay, for real, and it's pretty profound, okay? So let me just talk to you about this. So participants took part in 21-day awakening protocol by SOMA Breath, and we had 14 novice participants who'd never done any kind of breathwork before, 28 breathwork sessions over 28 days, data from 300 sessions. So that's why it's the biggest so far of this kind, because we got so much data with EEG machines. They've got this incredible like space age EEG machines at Cambridge, plus a special technique called temporal experience tracing to capture the subjective experience of the users. So they use this a lot when they do studies with psychedelics, right? And the results is very fascinating. But let me just talk to you about the protocol. So our 21-day protocol has a last week. That's what makes it 28 days. So you have 20-minute track, a 40-minute track, and then a 60-minute track each week, right? And then you have a maintenance dose, which is 20 minutes that runs, and you can pick and choose which one that is for the rest of your life if you want to carry on the practice. So we've studied it over 4 weeks, all right? What they found is very interesting. I'm not sure if you can see the lines, but here, cluster 1 is the reports of the psychedelic bliss experiences of users throughout this protocol, right? Cluster 2 is the negative experiences like boredom, lethargy, distraction, and stuff like that. So what they found was that from each week, going up from week 1, week 2, week 3, right, the bliss levels continuously go up. There's a little dip in week 3 because that's more of an intense session. But when they get used to it, it goes right back up. So what this shows is this breathwork protocol creates a dose of an experience that mimics traditional psychedelics, psilocybin, MDMA, and cannabis and ketamine that they're using in therapies. And what they found was that the changes in the brain are very similar to what is from our breathwork protocols, what is found in these psychedelics and these other substances that people use commonly to get into these ecstatic states, right? But what they also found was that the negative experiences went down, so people get used to it, and then once you get used to the technique, it becomes effortless. The negative experiences fade away, and then people get pretty much addicted to something more worthwhile than the other stuff that they may be taking, like alcohol, drugs, and psychedelics, which has become a problem, right? There's a lot of people these days who are very addicted to substances for happiness and bliss. But this gives you not only emotional health benefits, but also physical health, because it works on a core level on the mitochondria. The presentation before was all about NAD+, but if you use supplements to enhance that, you're as good as the amount of mitochondria you've got in your cells. With breath work, you go from 1,000 mitochondria in a cell to 4,000 when you use this technique called Nishesha Rachaka, which at a core level optimizes you to have more efficiency of using oxygen, which has this profound effect of enhancing your whole existence, right, in many different ways. All right. So I really believe with this protocol we developed, the 21 days, the host actually went on that course and it was life-changing for him, who just announced me on stage. And so many people, anyone done the 21 days here? Yeah. Like, good results? Yeah, it's game-changing, right? So it's fun, it's engaging, it's enjoyable. People love to look forward to the sessions when traditional other techniques like meditation may be a little bit boring. And with breath work, you have a both physical and emotional benefit. It works on an energy level, but it also works on a emotional, spiritual level, mind, body, spirit alignment. That's what I'm talking about. And we're going to go in much deeper. If you come to the booth, we can answer any questions, explain things much more in depth if you have it, because we're limited for time. But I really believe that we can address addictions, depression, anxiety, using the breath. I really think it's very profound and it becomes a more sustainable solution. So the 21-Day Awakening is our flagship course, but I want you to just hear some of the results of feedback from people who've gone through this, because it's really dramatic. Do you want to check it out? We also have a QR code. If you want to get discounts, download our app. We have an app now and discounts to the course. Download that and you can test it out. But let's just play this.
I was chronically ill for 4 years, had to shut down my business. So then eventually I became bedbound for 2 years. Yeah, my parents even had a conversation like, we're going to have the talk, like she's probably going to die. It's really a weird feeling to know like your body is dying. It's really an awful feeling to have. I never prayed in my life before, but I just said like, this can't be it. Please, that's how I came to your course. I'm going to be so honest. I was super skeptic in the beginning because I'm not raised in any spiritual way or anything, or mind-body connection. It was totally weird actually for me. I never knew that speed healing was an actual thing, but we really have that ability. And the thing I'm most grateful for is actually that you gave me hope. It lifts you up in some way that I can't yet fully explain what you do with all your magic.
This morning's session was very powerful. All of these sessions are the deepest I ever go into consciousness, light, love, and wisdom from God in a completely drug-free type of situation. This is all based on using your breath to go very, very deep.
I've been a cannabis addict for the last 30 years, doing your 21 Days Awakening, and I'm away from cannabis for the last 3 months now. I'm 52 now. It's the first time I feel that I'm in charge of my life, but nothing really worked for me the way SOMA has worked for me.
There we go. So pretty profound. This is just a few testimonies. We've got so many. Like, the best thing for me is waking up every morning and getting testimonials from our instructors I've trained, who send me their testimonials of people that lives they've changed. You know, that feeling is like something you can't even comprehend. It's amazing. And then this is a great explanation of the default mode network and how breathwork and also psychedelics works with it.
Yeah, and the default mode network is getting a lot of attention right now because what we understand its role to be. It's really kind of the network in your brain that is creating your sense of who you are. It's kind of you can think of it almost as your ego, the brain's version of the ego. We're finding more and more that if somebody has a significant mental health concern, usually there's some issues with the default mode network, which makes sense. If you're thinking too much about yourself or how you relate to other people or to the world, probably going to make you anxious or depressed or both. And what's interesting, of course, is that with psychedelics, that whole region basically goes offline. It shuts off. And so the way that a person normally thinks about themselves is basically interrupt. So, if I've got some dysfunctional ways that I think about myself that are causing me, pain, on a psychedelic, that's all disrupted. And all of a sudden you start thinking of yourself differently. You see yourself differently. When we kind of took that initial analysis of what was happening with the SOMA Breathwork and looked specifically at the default mode, what we saw was a pattern that looks remarkably like what we see with the traditional psychedelics. There's other research showing that if somebody has a mystical experience on or off of a psychedelic, that is much more likely to have lasting effects, be more life-changing in a positive way. And again, we saw that pattern here with SOMA, where the people in this experiment reported higher levels than with psilocybin or MDMA. The fact that we're getting these results in this situation I think is super significant.
So that was another neuroscientist who studied the 21 days, and he found that we have the same effects or more profound than psychedelics, a change in the default mode, quiet it down, which is the brain's version of the ego, which allows us to change our perception of the past. And that's where a lot of healing happens, changing perception of hate, blame, fear, anger, where that originates from, which shows how this is a powerful tool as a therapy that compares with psychedelics. And now that's what Cambridge have expanded on, and that's what we're doing much deeper, profound studies with. So you can check out the QR code if you want to get hold of our app and discounts or our courses on there. And I think we also train instructors. So you can find out information there or go over to our booth. And this is like a typical breathwork. No, it's not a typical one. This was me at Envision Festival. We had a lot of people show up. But we have instructors going all around the world, like transformational rock stars, really making a big impact. So we're calling on more instructors to join, to train in this, because I really believe we can make a big difference and impact in the world and solve some of the core problems using this methodology of breathwork. But the unique thing with us is the music that really powers it, the rhythmic breathing to a beat, and this revered ancient technique called Nishesha Chakra that I revived that creates a soma from within. So with that said, the power has been underneath your nose this whole time. And if you want to find out more, use our QR code. And we have the booth there. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to come over to the booth and we can discuss more there. So thank you very much.